Same. Pretty much the same. Oh, found a difference. Oh, thank God we can make a video. The entrance exam arc spans episodes 1 through 4 in the anime and chapters 1 through 4 in the manga. Convenient, is it not? Let's start with a nice little intro to the child versions of Deku and Bakugo. We get a few more background shots in the anime, and the narration is saved until Deku gets the shit beat out of him. So also, this is really tricky for me, but I feel like in the manga, you get more of a sense that Bakugo and Deku's relationship is like a thing of the past. While in the anime, Deku kind of treats Bakugo like they might still be friends. I don't know, it's just something I found a little interesting. The narration in the anime starts over that shot of the beaten up Deku, which we don't even see in the manga. But there, we do see Bakugo actually punching him. Then we're in the present-ish. Narrator Deku's in the far future, right? In any case, we see our present-day Deku and our first glimpse of some heroes, including Kamui Woods, who is underrated and objectively the best. The best. I mean, I wouldn't mind roasting some marshmallows on top of him, you know what I mean? Unsurprisingly, the anime adds a bunch of shots of Deku running and excitedly waiting at the streetlight, which brings us to our first installment in our series, Why Bother to Change That? In the anime's dub and English subtitles, the name of the Chinese city with the first, quirky baby is Xingxing, but in the manga and the anime's Japanese Deku voiceover, the city's name is KK. Anyway, in the manga, you might have noticed that, well, that's Spider-Man, and Superman, Wolverine. Is that Ultraman? And that's a bunch of other heroes. Clearly, copyright laws weren't very strict on the manga because you definitely don't see that in the anime. Seemingly, neither Marvel, DC, Toho, or anyone for that matter, gave the anime clearance. Instead, the anime shows some dramatic shot of Earth. Back to the giant purse snatcher. The manga is literally straight to the punch, well, kick here. We don't even really meet Death Arms in Backdraft. Plus, our boy Kamui gets more action in the anime. And Mount Lady's pleased to meet your ass acquaintance line and the subsequent second coming of the paparazzi is definitely not in the manga. The butt shot though, right out of the manga. Thank you, manga. You wrote that one for Mineta, didn't you? And we're already on our second Why Bother to Change That so soon. At the end of Deku's school day, one random student in the manga asks another if they can go to karaoke. Alas, they can't. But in the anime, the second student, tantalizingly revealed to be a guy, can go to karaoke. Yeah, that one's for me. BL, not Bud Light. Let's skip ahead to All Might and Deku's rooftop chat. Unlike in the manga, the anime doesn't cut to the muck monster falling and grabbing Bakugo here. It follows Deku and All Might, and we find out Mucky is missing later. When he finds him in the anime, Bakugo's friend suggests going to an arcade, and Bakugo gets excited about, prey? But in the manga, Bakugo chastises his friends for smoking. Anyway, in the manga, the Deku All Might chat and the Bakugo muck capture happen in chapter 1, but episode 1 cuts out right after Deku asks All Might if he can be a hero even though he's quirkless. How do you make that question feel significant enough to end an episode? With added flashbacks and 2 added monologues. And another added flashback to open episode 2. What is this, Attack on Titan? Hey, check out that video. All Might's letdown of Deku's dreams is much lighter in the anime. I cannot simply say you can become a hero without power. In the manga, he's much meaner. Kind of a douchebag, actually. Without power, can one become a hero? No, I should think not. A rhetorical question. Ouch. Which brings us to the second coming of Muck. In the anime, Deku sees the smoke from the rooftop just as All Might does. He has a moment of habitual excitement before he gets sad. But in the manga, he just does his sad walk and accidentally bumps into the crime scene. The anime also adds a little scene of All Might running and expands the scenes detailing the failures of the pros. Unexpectedly, Bakugo doesn't try to explode his way out in the manga. The rest of that scene is nearly identical to the manga, minus some flashback action while Deku's running to save Bakugo. Actually, the rest of the episode is nearly frame by frame the end of chapter 1. The beginnings of chapter 2 and episode 3 are super close too. There's really just the swanky one-for-all animation, which is shown differently in the manga because, well, you know, stationary pictures. Oh, and the manga is kind enough to provide a teeny map detailing how trash gets to the beach. There's also an interesting perspective shot in the anime of how small Deku is versus all the trash he has to pick up. In the manga, All Might encourages Deku by saying, "Let's pump you up." But his anime encouragement is, "Let's become athletic," because that's a thing real people say. At school, you see in the anime that Deku's fingers are covered with band-aids, which you don't see in the manga. In the manga, Deku's muttering a tangent about something like shaving off sleep. I guess that's a change. When Deku collapses, anime All Might is more relaxed about the whole thing. I mean, he's worked up, but in the manga, he gets so mad that he starts spurting blood. There's multiple exclamation points and action lines, which is kinda unfair. He should chill. Like get him the robot soundtrack. But Deku ends up cleaning the beach. Weirdly, the phone image of 10 months ago Deku crying is mirrored in the manga and anime. When manga Deku tears up, All Might says, "You gotta quit being a crybaby." His anime reply is gentler. "We'll have to fix those leaky eyes of yours." Either way, there is no shame in crying, people. The manga chapter ends with Deku ingesting the hair, but we don't hear his tortured cries like we do in the anime. And don't see his shoes. Very important. Those shoes. But the anime has to get to the UA entrance exam before we're done. We don't get those juicy details on Deku's need to shower and take the 40-minute subway ride. We've all been there. We all commute. Mini tangent. Coming from the anime, I was surprised that manga Uraraka's hair isn't colored in. If I didn't already know, I'd think it was white or blonde or something. Anyway, we're in the auditorium with Present Mike, which has a longer intro in the anime, because spotlights. Deku's fanboy moment gets its own special shot, whereas in the manga, you just see him next to an understandably annoyed Bakugo. Definitely no Bubbles. Man, I wish Bubbles emanated from me when I was excited. In the manga, when Present Mike is describing the entrance exam, the faux villains are illustrated using the silhouettes of a Goomba, a Koopa, and a Piranha Plant. And the silhouetted hero disabling them is Mario, of course. Present Mike describes the gimmick villain as kind of like a thwomp, and even explicitly compares the exam to Super Mario Bros. Just like those superheroes, Nintendo didn't give the anime their blessing. It's interesting to note that in the anime, Present Mike describes Napoleon Bonaparte as a hero, but in the manga, he's a great hero. I'd hesitate to call Napoleon a hero at all, but the anime tries to make up for their lack of Napoleon reverence by having Plus Ultra appear extravagantly in the screen behind Present Mike. Episode 3 ends outside the testing grounds, with a couple of added lines from Deku. But now, it's the time we've all been waiting for. The entrance exam! The UA credentials part of the anime intro is the same as the opener for chapter 3 of the manga. But other than tiny details, the test itself is remarkably close in the manga and anime. When the exam starts and the gimmick comes, there's a shot in the anime of just Deku and the gimmick, and Present Mike announces at this moment that there are 2 minutes left. He just announces in the manga that there's a minute and 5 seconds left after Deku punches the gimmick, which seems less intuitive. You also get a shot of Uraraka's leg caught under the debris, which you don't get in the manga. One tiny but fascinating difference happens after Deku punches the gimmick. In the manga, he's paused, floating mid-air, and says, "Oh." That one word makes it super clear that Deku really surprised himself. So ends chapter 3 of the manga, but we're only at the halfway point of episode 4. When Deku's falling, he's briefly confident in the anime that landing should be a piece of cake. However, manga Deku immediately realizes that he'll splatter when he lands, so that break pun isn't in the manga either. You may be surprised to learn that in the manga, Uraraka's vomit doesn't sparkle. In other words, it's not realistic. When time's up, the manga doesn't have a clear shot of Deku fainting. You just see him lying there. When Recovery Girl comes, in the anime, she merely offers everyone gummies. But in the manga, those aren't just any gummies. Those are Haribo candy, the good stuff. Unless they're sugar-free. The anime also graciously includes a nice head-on close-up of her smooch. That counts as fan service, right? Now it's 1 week later. The manga changes up the camera angle while Deku's mom's talking to Deku from the bookshelf. The anime stays on Deku. But it doesn't matter because the letter! The anime gives it its own close-up. When Deku opens it, All Might has a different excuse for his silence. In the anime, it's because he got overloaded with paperwork. In the manga, it's because there's been much to deliberate on, which makes it sound like the exam itself is part of it. The anime also lengthens the gag with All Might and the mysterious hand. He puts up more of a fight, whereas in the manga, he just repeats everything the hand is telling him back as a question. Manga Deku calls himself pathetic, noticeably similar to All Might himself a few chapters earlier. But the Japanese word, used in the anime at least, is kuyashi, which is sorta like, this sucks, frustration when you want to prove someone wrong. In that kuyashi vein, Anime Uraraka shouts please a bunch. In our last installment of Why Bother to Change That? In the manga, Present Mike calls her my little listener, but in the anime, he specifically calls her a female listener, which, I don't know how I feel about that, Mike. All Might also clarifies in the anime that both Deku and Uraraka pass. He just tells Deku in the manga, you're in. Fade out, tears. Tears everywhere. I love my hero. Which is why I'm gonna be covering the whole series in Manga versus Anime. And the next arc we'll be covering is the Quirk Apprehension Test. I'm Cristal, this is Getting the Robot, your anime explainer.